Good evening, everyone. Yes, we are live. Yes, good evening, everyone, and we are live. Welcome to the How Can I Support My Child series. Who is in the house? If you are in the house, I salute you this beautiful Thursday evening. Welcome to the Skill Up Show, that show where we skill up parents. All right. We skill up parents so they can in turn skill up their children for their journey. We want to raise wholesome children, and it requires skills to raise wholesome children because, dear parents, we cannot give what we do not have. So, if you're going to raise a skilled child, then you have to be skilled as well. Today on the show, we are looking at another episode in our November series. In November, we are looking at toddlers. Yes, we are dealing with the topic toddlers and emotions. So, this is our toddlers and emotions series, and today is the second episode in the series. The first episode, we talked about the effects of parents' emotional regulation on a toddler's growth and development. How can you, as a parent, affect your child because of your ability or inability to regulate your emotions? If you were not in that session, if you were not in that class, please go and look for it and catch a replay. All right, at the end of this session, you will have the link right here, but it's also on our YouTube channel and it's also on our Facebook channel. And the post that I did today, you will find it right there. All right, so that you can also go there and catch the replay of that session. If you are here with me, don't just be in the background. Let me know that you are here. Let us know that you have joined us, and let us know that you are set. Do you have a friend that needs to be here? A friend who is a parent of a toddler or a teenager or a preteen rather. Okay, especially for this episode, if you have a friend who is a parent of a toddler, then get them on board. Let them come in here. Why don't you go ahead and share a link with them on YouTube, or just simply tag them on Facebook so that they can be a part of the show. If you are catching a replay, let us know where you are joining us from, and of course, let us know that you are catching a replay. If you are on YouTube and you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and hit that subscription button, and remember to also hit the notification so that every time we go live, you get to see us and you get to be a part of the show. On Facebook, you can also hit that notification, all right? Button, all right, you can actually request to be notified every time we go live. We do this every Thursday at 7 p.m. and today we are looking at strategies to help toddlers deal with big emotions. Remember, in this month we are talking about, in the Skill Up Show, we are looking at, right, emotions, right, toddlers and their emotions. All right, so as human beings, we were actually built, right, to respond to the stimulus or stimuli in our environment. And so, yes, you will definitely respond to the things, the people in your environment as living things, right? So, responding to stimulus is one of our natural processes as human beings. So, yes, it is no wonder that as human beings, we are always responding to the things in our environment. And the things in our environments could be positive or negative. So, when we are triggered by this positive or negative stimulus or stimuli, all right, in our environment, what happens? We react, all right? Now we react, and that reaction will be a result of how we can manage our emotions, or we are struggling with those emotions. So the difference between us and other animals is that we have the capacity to tame ourselves. We have the capacity to learn how to tame ourselves. We have the capacity to control our reactions to the things in our environment that are stimulants. All right. So that's why things like civility, social graces, etiquette, emotional intelligence, even getting an education. This is why all of these things are a thing, because they are there to help us regulate how we react to the stimulus in our environment. So the way a dog, or okay, the dog can even be tamed, right? We have dogs that we train in our homes and all of that. So the way a wild animal in the wild, right, would react or respond to the stimulus in their environment is different from the way we should respond as human beings. That is why we are higher beings. So you see, why when we see cases of parents who are still in that place where we have to use certain parenting styles or certain parenting approach to tame our children, right, as if they are wild animals, that's why we frown, because there is a difference between, right, wild animals, a difference between lower animals, a difference between them and us. That is why we have things like emotional intelligence. That is why we have things like social graces. That is why we have things like etiquette. We have things that help us control how we react to the things in our environment. As children grow, they will learn how to also react to the things in their environment, how to respond to the triggers, how to respond to the stimulus in their environment. And this learning, or how they learn to do this, is going to be based on their relationships. The brain is a relational organ. So when children grow from an independent state of their life, of course, when children are born, they are totally dependent on us. So when they grow from that dependency, I meant to say dependency. When they grow from that place of dependency, where they are totally dependent on us as their parents, when they grow from that place, and of course autonomy begins to set in, what happens? What they have to respond, right, the capacity, or the capacity that they have built to respond to the stimulus in their environment, to respond to the triggers in their environment, is dependent on the relationship that they have had, the relationship that they have had with their caregivers, especially you, their parents, as their primary caregivers. So children, or how children react, or how children manage their emotions, or how children are able to deal with big emotions, is going to depend on the people who are raising them, what the people who are raising them know, and how the people who are raising them have mastered how to regulate their emotions. This is why it is not far-fetched that a parent who is a yeller is going to raise children who yell. Why? A parent who is calm in the face of chaos is going to raise children who will be calm in the face of chaos. And this is simply because children learn from the models before them. They learn from the way we relate. So they learn. The brain is built, or is developed, the brain is developed through relationships. And so the children will learn how to react to stimulus. They will learn how to react to the triggers in their environment based on how they see you react to the stimulus, or react to the triggers in your environment. So yes, parents, how our children manage, or how our toddlers manage their big emotions, is going to take its roots from how you manage your big emotions and how you relate to the child, basically. So there is a concept that is known as the attachment theory. All right, so the attachment theory is that concept that focuses on relationships and bonds. It tries to give us a psychological explanation of the bond between, in relationships, basically the bond in relationships, and of course relationships like a parent and a child's relationship. So this attachment theory gives us a psychological explanation of the relationship between parents and children and other relationships. All right. a secure attachment. All right, there are many kinds of attachments. All right, there is the secure attachment, there is the anxious attachment, there is the avoidance attachment, and then there is the disorganized attachment. For the purpose of this class, we won't be able to look at these different attachments, styles, but then again, I will just touch on the secure attachment. So the secure attachment is the foundation of a child's world, which of course provides them with safety to explore, of right, the confidence that they need to grow and not be afraid to face challenges. So when you find a child who is secure in their attachment, okay, children who feel loved, children who feel understood, children who know that they will always have you there no matter what. Children like these grow up to be stable, they grow up to be secure, and they grow up to be ready to thrive. They are ready to take on challenges without being afraid. These are the kind of children that you find who become entrepreneurs. They are the ones who become inventors. They are the ones who are creative. So yes, when you see the creatives, you see people who are not afraid to, you see people who are successful because of the level or the degree of value that they carry. You see people who are not afraid to try new things, who are not afraid to try again when they fail. All right, go back and trace. You will realize that to a huge extent, or in many cases, these people come from homes where love exists, from homes where they were allowed to fail, from homes where they were allowed to explore, from homes where they were allowed to grow and explore their environment, interact with their environment, and so they grew up to be very confident. A child with a secure attachment is seen to be an embodiment of confidence, basically. All right, a child with a secure attachment is confident. Some of the things that you see when you meet a child that has grown, or a child that has a secure attachment with their caregivers or the people who raise them, you find that this kind of child is warm and caring. This kind of child is trusting and forgiving. This kind of child has good boundaries. This kind of child is responsive, all right? And this kind of child is usually honest and open. All right, as I said, there are others, attachment style that I'm not going to dive into. I said there's the anxious one. And all of these attachments are formed by the relationship between the child and the caregivers. You know that time when the children are little, when that child will cry, and then someone somewhere told you, when they are crying, leave them, they are children, crying, they keep picking. All right, you abandon the child there, and then the child cries and cries and cries, and no help comes. What is it? The child does not understand, or does not know the affection that comes with people running to help you when you are in the times of your need. Okay, there is the one that you will come and you take the child and you have the frown, you are angry, you are consistently angry and anxious and frustrated and all of that. All of these are the relationship that are building the kind of attachment that your child is forming with you. All right, let me talk a little about the anxious attachment. When we raise this kind of children that cry and they have their emotional needs, and those emotional needs are not met because the parents are not present, or the parent doesn't know how to be present indeed. All right, when we have been taught that when children need us, right, I better leave the child already, they know what they are doing. These children, you don't know them, they have sense, they just want to manipulate you, they just want to this, all of those negative limitations that we were told and we ran with because we didn't know any better. What happens to this kind of child that the parent is on this table is that the child does not get their emotional need responded to. So the child, when the child cries for help, the child doesn't get. That child that will, the diaper will get soiled, and the child will cry and cry and cry and have to stay with that diaper for the long time. For you, it is really very simple. You are busy, or you are at work. You have left her with Nkechi at home, or Imabong at home, and then Imabong is busy with her phone. But then again, every time this child is crying, no one is attending to the child. No one is there attending to the child's need. That child, that at the point the child begins to crawl, as the child is crawling, all the child is hearing, no, 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 stop it, beat it. And then the child makes a mistake, you slap the child does this, you beat the child. All of this is forming the kind of attachment that the child has with you. So what happens? This kind of child becomes anxious. This kind of child does not know when you would attend. So consistency. 1 minute you're attending to their needs, the next minute you're not attending to their needs. 1 minute they are hungry, they are crying. Sometimes that need is not attended to, and then the child sleeps and forgets about the hunger, wakes up and meets it and deals with it again. When you raise children like this, you cannot develop the child, you cannot build a secure attachment with this kind of child. So what you find out is you find this kind of child in a the child feels insecure in relationships. The child has a lot of fear because the child fears being abandoned. Remember, when the child was growing, and it's deeper than this, that child that the parent left sometime when they were small, daddy issues, mommy issues, these are the things. This is how this attachment style is formed in the child. And so the child grows up as a toddler, right? The child is in that space where the child is afraid of being abandoned. The child lacks boundaries. The child is always going through mood swings and fluctuations and all of that. The child is highly sensitive because the child becomes a really sensitive child, right? Because he doesn't know when he will be attended to or whether he will not be attended to. So all of these things can form the attachment style of that child. All right. We are not, as I said, we're not talking about attachment styles today. I just thought to touch on it so that we understand that these are some of the things that will affect how our children respond to triggers in their environment. These are the things that affect how our children through those times. You see, usually the response, right? The response that your toddler gives when they're dealing with big emotions is usually manifested through tantrums. All right, so we are looking at what are the things that could be. Hi Chioma, how are you doing? We're looking at the things that could be responsible for all of this, or how your child reacts. So now let's go and look. As I said, I am not going to dive deep into attachment theories, but maybe we will come back to this, because for the whole of November we are here for you toddler parents. I am constantly dealing with preteens and early adolescents, and all of that. But you see, this month of November, I'm here for you toddler parents. All right, we have a toddler group. If you would like to be a part of that group, all right, just say toddler group, so that will send you the link to join that toddler group on WhatsApp, where the conversation is ongoing. And we have a lot of things that are lined up in the month of November, right, for toddler parents. So let's look at some of the big emotions that your toddler could deal with or is dealing with right now. If you see one that looks like, or that's one that you're dealing with already, just say, are you boss? All right. So anger, of course, anger is an emotion. Now, while we're saying this, we're not saying there's anything wrong with these emotions. Remember, I started by saying that we are living things, right? And of course, one of our processes is to respond to stimulus, to respond to the triggers in our environment. So yes, the people and how people treat us is part of the triggers in our environment. So yes, we were created to respond, and yes, our feelings are valid. So your child's feelings or their emotions are very valid, and they are supposed to have them. However, what we are looking at is how they can deal with these feelings, right, in positive ways. And of course, because we are dealing with toddlers, we're dealing with your 2-3-year-olds, your 4, your 5-year-olds. Of course, it's not automatic that they know how to deal with these triggers. You are going to have to help them, dear parents. All right. And we already said that the brain, the part of the body that controls how we react or how we deal with our emotions, is a part of the brain that is called the prefrontal cortex. It is not even anywhere close to being developed at this stage. So the child is going to need you, dear parents. And because the brain is a relational organ, how the child responds is going to be connected to how you respond. So the child is going to be learning, or that part of the prefrontal cortex, the development of the prefrontal cortex is dependent on you and the kind of relationship and experiences that you are creating with your child. So we're still looking at big emotions. Anger. When your child doesn't get what they want, they tend to throw a tantrum because they are angry. Fear is another one. Another one is sadness, when they are left out, when they feel disappointed, when they don't feel, they're not noticed, or recognized at a particular time. Excitement is also an emotion, right? When the child is overly excited about something, all right? That's an emotion. That's one of those big emotions. Embarrassed, when the child feels embarrassed. Some of us think that it is okay to shame and embarrass children in front of other kids, because somewhere at the back of our mind, when you embarrass them in front of their child, they will not, their friends, they won't do it again. It's so wrong, dear parents. All right, disappointment, curiosity, overly, when the child becomes too curious about something because the child does not know what to expect. Lack of predictability, it can actually lead to a big emotion. Curiosity, the child doesn't know what to expect and all of that. So parents, there is nothing like, you don't know these children, they don't know me, they don't know where we come from. I am like, they don't know where I'm come from. No, they should know where you come from. Predictability is something that children need to build that secure attachment we're talking about. Confusion, yes, jealousy, and then of course frustration. All these are big emotions that our children or our toddlers will have to deal with at one time or the other, and it's our responsibility to teach them how to handle and how to deal with these emotions. All right, so let's look at why our children struggle with these emotions. Why is it that your 4-year-old is not able to manage the fact that his daddy just came back from a trip and got him a new toy and all of that? Why is he so excited and cannot control himself? Sometimes they can get so excited they run up the stairs and all of that, and the excitement can actually lead to chaos, or even lead to them getting themselves injured and all of that. Why is my child, when he's angry because he doesn't get through such a big tantrum, some of them so bad that they are harming themselves, right, because of these big emotions? Why is this so? All right, number one is because the child is still developing. Their brain is still developing. I said that before. All right, the brain is still developing, and the part of the brain that controls or regulates emotions is of course still, in fact, it's in its infant state, because psychologists tell us that part of the brain doesn't even get fully developed until the child is in their mid-20s, somewhere around 25, 26. So you can imagine where your 4-year-old is at when that part of the brain is not even going to get fully developed until somewhere around 26, thereabouts. So of course the child is an infant in this business of emotional regulation. So yes, if you find your 4-year-old, your 6-year-old still throwing a tantrum, some people say toddlers are up to like 5 years old. I like to give allowances. So when I work with my preteens, I stretch my preteens till about 13. So if you come to our mentorship program, the Mastermind Circle, we actually take in children right from 6, and then we graduate and send them to bigger, programs, teenage programs when they are 14, because I think transition should be done gradually. All right, so by the time you are launching your child, or you are having them transition from being preteens into teenagers, you want to make it a gradual process. And so we allow them transition, right? We don't just let them go at 13. Oh, you're not a teenager, so let's stay in there in your first one teen years, and all of that, gets you stable and all of that. So maybe that's the reason why I would like to think of your toddler even at 6, as a 6-year-old. All right, so forgive me, some people say toddlers, yeah, toddlers up to about 5. When they go to year 1, all right, they're no more toddlers. Okay, but for the purpose of this class, I'm talking about your 6-year-old also. All right. So yes, their brain is not fully developed. So that is why they are throwing those big tantrums. All right. So that we can know them, we understand what's going on in their brains, we understand what's going on with them, so that we can support them better. Number 2, because the child does not have enough vocabulary to express themselves. So they don't have enough vocabulary to tell you how they feel per time. And so it depends now on how you are helping and supporting the child and giving the child the right vocabulary in your relationship. Remember, the brain is a relational organ, and of course, it's going to develop through the child's experiences, the positive experiences, and of course, what you model in your relationship, especially when it comes to how you regulate your emotions and how you help the child identify their emotions and then speak about that emotion. All right. So when we do that, we give them the right vocabulary to express how they feel, to express what they are feeling. All right. And all of that. This will help the child learn how to communicate their emotions per time. And of course, this will help them learn how to deal with them. All right. Number 3 is the lack of impulse control. This also comes back to how developed that part of their brain is. And then again, if you have a parent or you have caregivers who are very impulsive, you have caregivers that all they need is one little trigger, boom, they're all over the place. I said at the beginning of this class, a yelling parent has a great children who will become yellers. So it's so ironical how, you have 2 of your children probably, having a banter and all of that. And from nowhere, you have one of them, or you hear one of them begin to cry or something like that. And, you're trying to find out, what is it? Why is he crying? What happened? And the child goes, he hits me. And you're like, for what? Why would you? And then you do the same thing. You hit the older one too. So you see, it's really not it's really not strange, right, that the child is hitting, because this is what has been modeled to the child as how to manage frustration. All right, this is how you manage frustration when someone does something, right, and you do not know how to deal or express or talk about it. Just get your cane or get your hand and hit them as hard as it is so that they feel pain. So you have just modeled to the child how to deal with frustration or whatever emotion that you are going through at that time. So yes, when the child experiences something that resembles that emotion, or the child goes through the same situation or circumstance, of course the child has been given the right response, the child has been given the appropriate response by you, the parent or the caregiver, and so naturally the child will apply what the child has experienced, because this is the response that the child's subconscious mind that stores up our experiences. This is what the subconscious mind will offer the child as a means of response to that stimulus, or as a means of response to that trigger, straight up. All right. So you see how our children learn from us firsthand. All right. The next one is the lack of social awareness. The child, of course, is not aware of the appropriate behavior per time, because the child has either not been taught, or the child has not been taken through the process of, how to go about this, and then the child has not been given enough reinforcement, all right, and of course, enough practice for the child to begin to manifest this. So yes, you will see this. And then the last one I'm going to give you, of course, it's not limited to these 5. There are many more, but for the purpose of this class, we will just stick to these 5. The next one is the child is in need of routines. So sometimes when our children, as I said, when they have not been taken through the process of how to respond to, this kind of and how to respond to the triggers in their environment when they have not been taught and they have not been given and they've not been passed through the process of how to deal with these big emotions. Of course, when there is no routine, when there is no step-by-step process to it, of course the child will behave, in that uncooked way, because this is all that the child knows. All right, so children need processes, children need routines, children need, a step-by-step, process or step-by-step guide on how to deal with situations, basically. So this is very important. All right, how long have we been here? All right, we have about 10-15 minutes and we'll be out of here. All right, so what do we do now as parents to prevent our children from these emotional struggles? What can you do as an intentional parent? And that is the thing, right? That is the thing for you as an intentional parent. An intentional parent does not, follow everybody and does not respond spontaneously like every other person. An intentional parent knows and can preempt some of these things. All right, an intentional parent goes ahead and thinks about, some of these emotions and some of the things that their child would encounter during this phase of their lives. And so what do? You begin to strategize and you begin to put things in place to help the child, right? Or at least to reduce or help the child manage these emotions as they come. So yes, the children can be taught. Children can be taught how to manage these emotions. The brain is a relational organ. It is how we relate to them. It is what we model to them. It is how intentional we are with them understanding and knowing how to deal with this that will make a difference. So one of the things you want to do, very, very important, is to create routines. Create routines that will reduce the triggers in your environment. For instance, in your home or in your classroom, you want to create a system, for instance, that will help children avoid, having altercations that will lead to frequent, big emotions being released in your environment. So as a parent, if you have routines that says this is what we're supposed to do per time, okay, you have routines that says this is how we go about the things. For instance, the things, that could lead to triggers. For instance, you have 2-3 children and of course, that what program to watch, the remote control, and all of that can be a trigger or can be the reason for conflict. What do? You create a process that will help the children, right, enjoy watching whatever it is, right, without all the banters and all the conflicts, because you have a process or you have a system on ground. All right. So for our kids, of course, they don't watch TV throughout the week, right? That is, our daughter has always had that right from when she was born. Our son had to learn at some point, of course, at the point we became more intentional. By the time he was somewhere around 5-6, somehow, there's hardly ever really been TV in our home during the week. All right. So for the record, there isn't that. So of course, we do not have to deal with any give me the remote or not give me the remote throughout the week, because the system or the routine in our home already avoids that, or has already created a process that avoids that completely. Now on Saturdays, the TV won't come on at least till about 12 noon. All right. So meaning in the hours between when they wake up and 12 noon, there are activities, chores, and stuff to be done. Now, when this routine is in place, it means that the children get to do that. And of course, it reduces whatever it is that could lead to some of those triggers in the environment, in your environment. For instance, when you have a routine as far what the children are supposed to do per time, what chore, who is supposed to do what chore, and all of that, it's not a problem that you come and start shouting what has been done, what has not been done, because you have put a routine in place. Even when the children falter or when the children fail, you know that it's not going to be something that will happen all the time. And to be even, if you are even more, as a parent, you can even be more. What's the word now? There's a word that I'm looking for. Anyway, you can actually go ahead and even put consequences on ground. Proactive is the word I was looking for. You can be even more proactive by having consequences on ground for each of these, when you fail or when you falter in one way or the other. Now, all of these routines and all of these things are put in place to reduce, right? To reduce or to manage the triggers in your environment that can lead to the chaos that leads to big emotions with your preteen. With your toddler. Remember, you are also trying to create or build or develop a secure attachment. So the more confrontations, the more big emotions, the more conflicts you have in your home, the less the chance that you will create the right attachment that you want. All right. So if your goal is to build a secure attachment with your child, you want to raise a stable child, you want to raise a child who is confident, you want to raise a child who is loved or who feels loved. Because it is one thing for you to say that you love a child, it is another for the child to feel loved, dear parents. So there are two different things. It is one thing for you to hit a child and come and gather the child, bring the child later and start explaining. We do that thing. African parents, we do that a lot. Please, let me tell you something. All right. Some of these things, right? I was talking about the secure attachment, and I said it is built from consistency and the child being able to trust you. Now, inconsistency would lead to anxiousness and anxious attachment. So, if you are that parent that the child cannot even predict, because one day the child does a thing and you will let it go. The next day, you will beat the child and then tell yourself, I will beat you first. Then I will explain to the child later. When I finish beating, then I will now sit down. They call it carrot and stick or whatever it is, right? When you do that, the thing is, while you are doing that, it is leading to a lot of unpredictability, all right? And because the child cannot predict you, the child cannot trust you because the child does not know what to expect from you. So all that I will beat you later, right? All that I will beat you and I will explain later. When I beat the child, I will now make them understand. It still is going to create that attachment that is not completely, the child cannot trust you and all of that. And you will still have probably an anxious, attachment, or you will have a disorganized kind of attachment with your child. So these are the things you want to pay attention to, their parents. All right. So you can create routines and create systems and create boundaries, right, where you avoid a lot of the things that can lead to this instability in your relationship with your child. Now, are we saying you should be permissive and allow things, slide because you want to create consistency? No, we are saying create routines. We are saying create standards. We are saying create consequences. We are saying agree on these things with the children. So when it happens, it does not, trust does not come in. We have already agreed on these consequences together. In fact, as a matter of fact, let the children choose the consequences so that when you are teaching, what you are teaching the children is action and consequences and not you being unpredictable. Now, that even makes you predictable because now we have agreed on the actions and the consequences. We have agreed on it and you insist on it happening because you also need to be consistent as a parent because you are trying to build consistency in your relationship. If you don't know how to think about it, just think about it, as a married person. Think about your spouse and you not knowing which way your spouse will go, right, given a situation. I think those of us who feel very close, very attached to our spouses, those of us who feel very loved and all of that, it's because there is predictability in our relationships. We can say, this is what my spouse would do. This is what my spouse will not do. We can actually predict how they will react to certain things. And that makes you feel closer, trust. It brings a lot of trust, makes you feel closer to the person, and all of that. So yes, this is one of it. All right. The next one is you want to use what am I talking about now? Okay, I said create routines. All right, the next one is using healthy emotional expressions. All right, I said, I mean, I've said this many times, in the stream, that the brain is a relational organ. How your children manage their emotions is going to be from what you model. Your children are going to learn emotional regulation from you as their parents. All right. So we also said that one of the reasons why our children do not know how to manage their emotions, our toddlers do not know how to manage their emotions, is because they do not have the right vocabulary. So as a parent, it is your job to help your children learn healthy emotional expressions. Teach them how to talk about how they feel. I feel, right? I feel angry because of what you said to me just a few minutes ago. Mom, I feel disrespected because of the way you treated me. Dad, I feel upset because let them learn how to express how they feel in a respectful, calm, and and healthy way. All right. So we must give them this language. We must give them language. We must teach them how to recognize how they feel per time, how to express how they feel per time, and how to do it in a healthy way. Okay, we must teach them how to say, this is how I feel, all right, and all of that. Now, when we do this, the child ends up feeling heard, the child ends up feeling respected, the child ends up knowing how to validate how they feel per time. So, this kind of children do not conform. This kind of children do not drop their standards. This kind of children do not become easily swayed, and do not settle. These kind of children are not people, all right? They are not people who do not know how to, take a stance basically, and all of that, because you have taught them how to express how they feel. They are not afraid to say to anybody, this is how I feel. And so, of course, they also learn how to regulate, how to react basically, because now they have something that is powerful. They have their voice. They have their voice. See, when you see agberos on the streets, when you see people who do not know how to, or who do not settle, or who do not resolve conflicts amicably, or do not resolve conflicts by having conversations, a lot of times it's because as children, as toddlers, they were not given language and given the right expressions to express their feelings, or they were not even allowed to feel the feelings basically, because the feelings were not validated. Why are you frowning? Are you the only one that it happened to? Are you the only one that is here? Come on, get out, burn my song, and all of that. When we do all of these things, we do not give the children the permission to feel or to experience that feeling. And so because they do not experience the feeling, they do not know how to express it, all right? They do not know how to send the message about how they feel per time. And this is what happened to a lot of us, especially in this part of the world, in Africa, where children were not allowed to feel their feelings. They were not allowed to meet the way they feel. They were not allowed to meet their emotions, basically. And so the child and the emotions are separated. And so the child doesn't know how to deal with the emotions because he doesn't even know how to talk about it. That's why you see adults today that are visibly upset, visibly angry, and you are saying what's wrong, and they're telling you it's nothing. In fact, they are raising their voice and yelling and shouting at you and say, I am not angry. I said I'm not angry. Why do you think I'm angry? But you are obviously angry. These are the issues. What's wrong with you? You are upset. You are carrying a face. You have a long face. You are visibly, upset. What is wrong? Nothing. What is wrong? Nothing. So that's why we have become so malicious. All right. We have become so malicious. In fact, some of our parents actually raised us with malice, such that you would do something wrong at home. Instead of having a conversation, your parents would not speak to you for days. So you now grow up and you become a man or a wife, a woman, and then you have altercation or you have a small trouble with your husband, and you will not speak with them for 2 weeks because you were raised to deal with your emotions by withdrawing and saying nothing. And it's an attachment style, avoidance. We avoid talking, we avoid confrontations, we avoid conflict, we avoid all of that. And so you say to yourself, I am quiet. No, it's not because you are quiet, you are traumatized. You are traumatized. You do not know how to express the way you feel. You do not know how to confront people when they have made you feel a certain way. So you bottle it all up, and then you go about resentful, malicious, bitter, and then you tell yourself, I am quiet. My own, I stay on my lane. I don't want trouble. No. You are traumatized and you do not know how to express how you feel. And most times it came from right when you were 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, because you were that toddler that was not allowed to feel what emotions you were feeling per time. You were not given permission, or you were not given language to express your feeling per time. In fact, you were not even allowed to experience that feeling because the feeling or emotion was not even validated. There was no room for that. So the sad part about this, as I said, is that it will manifest in the future. It will manifest in the future. It will manifest as trauma with the people that you have a relationship, the people you work with, the people you live with. Sometimes it will even, in fact, a lot of times, it will even manifest in your relationship with your own children. So we are raising generations of traumatized people because the pattern is replicated over and over again. So these things are really very deep. Toddler parents, very deep. You are in a good place to start breaking patterns. You are in a good place to start breaking patterns and to start changing the trajectory because you are knowledgeable, or because you are getting the knowledge that you need, right, to change these things, especially now that your children are still young, so that your children do not carry this pattern and, of course, replicate them, because you are replicating them right now. So if I were you, I would stay right here this November, because we are going to be teaching and we're going to be doing a lot with you toddler parents. As a matter of fact, right now, go to the comment section and write toddler group so that we can send you the link to join our toddler group, where we have all of the insights and information and knowledge in the month of November and December for toddler parents. All right. The next one is when we have expectations, when we have big expectations, unrealistic expectations of our toddlers. We have not taught them how to behave. We have not taught them what to do. We have not taught them. We're talking about what to do to prevent emotional struggles in our toddler. So we want to, of course, teach them what we want to see them manifest. So we want to take our children through the process. We want to teach them how to deal with it. We want to teach them how to deal, how to deal with emotions, how to behave per time, and all of that. As we teach them and as we continue practicing, the children will learn, how to deal, with what it is that they encounter per time. And this, of course, will help us set expectations that the children can actually meet, because now we have taught them what to do. We want to also teach them how to empathize. And empathy is not just telling them to share their toys. Empathy is you modeling caring for other people. Empathy is you modeling honor as a family, right? You honor your children, and so you teach them how to honor each other. Empathy is having them support other people when they are in need, all right? When another child is crying, you want to raise your child to go and find out what they can do to help the child. Your child should be able to look in your face and see that you are going through something. Mom, are you okay? But of course, they're going to learn this because they have seen you care and Go ahead to try and find out how other people are doing. They've seen you concerned about people. They've seen you reach out to people. They've seen you visit your friends who are ill. They've seen you visit people who are ill. They've seen you take cookies to the neighbors. They've seen you take care of the people that stay with you. They've seen you speak kindly and respectfully to the nannies and your domestic workers. They have seen you show empathy. They've seen you show respect. They've seen you model this over and over again. They've seen you do that towards them. Okay? When all of this is happening, your child is learning. I wrote a post today and I shared about how you can teach your children kindness. Not thinking that kindness is just telling your children to hand down their old clothes or hand down their old toys or taking them to the orphanage to carry indomie and go and give orphans. A lot of times what that breeds is your children just going there to look at other people and reinforce the fact that my life is better. We know this I better pass my neighbor tendency. So a lot of times we teach I better pass my neighbor to our children in the name of teaching kindness. No, it doesn't occur. It doesn't happen that way. All right, there is much more to kindness, and it is hinged on empathy. All right, it is hinged on empathy and putting yourself in other people's shoes and allowing yourself experience or allowing yourself visualize what the experience will be like. And then based on what you visualize, you are able to create and provide support for the person through that process, and not just handing down things to people and going to the orphanage and staying in one corner and the orphans are in that corner, and then you see them handing your old clothes to them and handing indomie right there. You are there and they are there. At the end of the day, the child just says to himself, the only mindset that the child leaves that place with is, I better pass my neighbor, I better pass these people. And this is some of the these are some of the mindsets that we have that will not help us raise children who are empathetic. All right, so these are the issues. All right, so these are some of the things that you want to do to prevent your children from struggling with big emotions when you take them through this process, when you teach them this. Now, I'm sure there's someone here that is saying, but my child is in that place already. What do I do? All right, for you, you need to, for you, who your child is here or your child is not here, all right, we have something for you. We want to go through a process with you, and I'm going to be sharing that in a bit. But let's look at some of the things that you want to do. Not the famine, most importantly, you want to go ahead and create structure, right? You want to create a structure in your home, all right? You want to create structure in your home that will help you teach emotional intelligence, that will help you teach children how to manage their emotions per time. All right. First thing you want to do is teach your children calming techniques. Teach them different calming techniques. There are many of them. You can Google and see, okay? There is one. My daughter has a bottle. She's far. I would have called her now. All right, to bring it. She has a bottle. She has lots of glitters in the bottle, and so I tell her, when you are upset sometimes, you are not a tree. Excuse yourself and walk away from the trigger. Teach your children to put a distance between them and the trigger. So teach them that there is the time to walk away from an argument. In fact, I teach my children there is no need to argue. There are only 2 steps when you don't agree with someone. Listen to what their perspective is. Share your own perspective. And if at the end of that, the conversation continues, that is the time that you want to take excuse to use the toilet. Go and put a distance between you and the trigger. Because the truth about it is, when people argue, there is no path. There is no one that is going to back down. Usually no one backs down in an argument. So, but then again, when you listen to perspective, you share a strong point, all right? And then you give the person the chance to wrap their head around it. There is the tendency, or there is the chance that a person may see where you are coming from. It's the same way too with you. When you listen to other people's perspective respectfully, all right, and then you give yourself time to assimilate it, you may find right there some sense in what they have said. Rather than sit down there and banter back and forth, that alone does not give any room for people to reflect or think about the argument. So people just argue based on their opinion, and that's it. So there is no need. So teach them how to put distance between them and their triggers. All right, teach them that. All right, one of the ways is just take excuse and go to your room, and then the bottle, I tell her, she shakes the bottle and then she begins to watch the glitter settle. While you're watching the glitter settle, it takes the mind away from the issue, and then of course you are focused on the glitter and all of that. Definitely after a few minutes you will feel better. All right, you can do the breathing exercise also, where they breathe for 4, and then they breathe for the breathing. Breathe, taking a breath for 4 and exhale for 4, and all of that. So teach them all of these techniques basically. All right. Number 2 is tell them stories. Tell them stories. I'm such a storyteller. Maybe that's why I write amazing stories. If your child has not read my stories, if your child does not have my book, you are wrong. Okay? See this amazing bedtime stories for champions. It's loaded. And then we have destined for greatness. I don't write a single, even my inspirational and motivation, my self-development books are wrapped in stories. All right, all our books are self-development books. They're books that will help your children develop skills, but then they are stories. They're wrapped in stories. Beautiful. Destined for greatness. This is about great African icons who have done great things that our children can, emulate, and they can become models and inspiration to our children. Is it young and money smart? All right, we told the story of Tega in the story, and how Tega just wanted to be 007, just wanted C7 like Ronaldo. He wanted everything that Ronaldo was because he liked the glitz and glam that came with Ronaldo. He didn't understand the skill or the work that Ronaldo put behind the scene until he started having conversation with Auntie Mabel. So these are the things, lovely stories wrapped, and then at the end of this book, your child will have an abundance mindset to making money and all of that, so that he's not just looking at people wearing big chain and dressing half naked and moving around in the name of they are the ones that have money, or they are the ones that are making money. All right, so we got amazing books. Christmas stories for champions. If you do not have this book, you don't have a gift for your child. Please order Christmas stories for champions and put this with whatever it is that your child is going to get as a gift this Christmas. Beautiful illustration. Just look at this story. This story is about a boy that's gone to the army. He had gone and left his family in Ibadan and went to join the army, and he was coming home for Christmas when his family didn't think he was going to come. And so he came home and said, I will be back for Christmas. Amazing stories. It's not a religious book in any way. It's just what Christmas was like for us in the late 70s and 80s while we were growing up. We put that together so that our children can have an experience of what real Christmas was like for us. Look at this. It's such a beautiful village scene. Does this remind you of your village? Pangolo, pangolo. Beautiful, amazing stories. So please, buy Christmas stories for champions and read and share these books with your children. What do you have it? Slumber time in the living room and read this book together. Make this Christmas fun and exciting. Amazing stories. This one is about my best Christmas present ever. It's about a lovely let's just leave it. I am excited about the books that I write. I write for children, I read, and I'm excited about them. So these are amazing books. We have 8 books for children in our Stories for Champions series and our Skill Up series. All right, this one is about cousins who were hanging out at grandma's place for the summer holiday. It's packed with family values and exciting stories. All right, so awesome. You want your children to have these books, right? Yes. So I was talking about I was talking about tell them stories. So tell them stories that reinforce what it is. Tell them stories about the tortoise and how patient he was. Tell them stories, about people who had to deal with certain emotions. Stories have a way of staying and lingering with children. When children learn and they read this, they listen to stories, it helps them, right, to conceptualize what it is that you are talking about. All right. Teach them physical outlets, right, for their emotions. Let them play games. Teach them to dance when they're not feeling very happy. Teach them to dance. Teach them to play sports, and all of that. Teach them, role play with them. Role play, create a scenario of what it is that could happen with an emotions. Play it out with your children. Play it out, with the entire family and all of that. And of course, positive reinforcement. Um, learn to learn to admit, or um, learn to validate what your child is going through. Learn to validate what they are going through. Learn to teach them to accept what it is that is the feeling per time, and then how to handle this feeling. All right, so yes, this brings us to the end of the show. It's 1 minute to the end of the show. And yes, if you will like to have any of our books, just go to the comment section and ask to get a link or get information for our books, and we will share them with you. Okay, more than that, in December, we are not just going to come and teach you about these emotions and all of that. We are going to take you through a process. All right, nobody puts up a challenge for parents and toddlers like I do. Yes, if you've ever been in our reading challenge, our summer book reading challenge, then you know that when it comes to toddlers and how to get your toddlers to do hands-on practice and achieve these things, I am your go-to person. So we're putting together a challenge, right? Putting together an emotions building challenge for your toddlers so that you would do this with them. And it's coming up in the month of November and December, when we're all chilling and relaxing and all of that. We're going to be sharing details about that. If you're a toddler parent, don't miss that challenge. You know how our challenges come. They are affordable, they are fun, they are easy. We just want to have fun and help you teach your children to regulate their emotions while they're at that. So you want to be a part of that emotions and your toddler challenge that is coming up soon. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for being here. Our books are here. We have bonuses on our books. If you buy one or multiple copies of our books, you get your toddler, your preteens, right? Your 8 to 14-year-olds to join our vision workshop. Nobody puts an online vision workshop, goal setting and planning workshop like we do. We've done this for 3 years. This is the 4th year. I am the queen of vision board parties. We've done physical vision board parties, but these days we do online ones, and they are as robust and as effective and productive as the vision board workshop. In fact, 6 years and counting, we have been doing vision board workshops, whether physically or online. So yes, if you get one or more copies of our books, one child gets to be a part of that vision workshop. Apart from that, I'm going to be sharing 7 amazing stories. I am the queen of storytelling. So I'm going to be sharing 7 of my amazing story adventure, fun stories, beautiful stories, and our stories are practical, handsome. Think of Tales by Moonlight. That's the kind of story that I tell. All right, you're going to have our stories, 7 of them. You have the experience with our stories. All right, all free if you buy our resources this holiday. And yes, you also get a 10-day guide on how to help your child cultivate the habit of reading. They are also fun activities that will help your child enjoy reading. Thank you for joining me today. Just look out for all of these. All right, there will be the link in the description and in the comment section for you to reach out to get any of our books. We have 8 of our books for children. We also have playtime stories for champions. We have 8 of them for children, and we have 2 parents books to help you support your children. All right, so you can buy multiple copies, or you can buy all copies of our books, 10 of them for just 35,000, or you can buy 4 of the series, the Skill Up series, for 16,000, or you can buy 4 of the Stories for Champions series for 16,000, or you can just buy the ones that you need. All right. Thank you again for joining me. Have a fantastic rest of the evening and a lovely weekend tomorrow. Thank you again. Let us know if you, of course, you got value from the session. Let us know your biggest takeaway from the session. Have a fantastic evening. Bye. Bye for now.